So this is the procedural generation, random cave-like map generation. This is the 2D version of the build. So I wanted to get a version where the player can kind of move around for a bit first. See the colliders working. Yeah, and clicking just generates the new ones. My connecting kind of tunnels ended up being a little bit wide. I set it to 1. They still kind of make some cool shapes though. That was the first time I saw one of those, like, just one tile by the... Oh, there's another one. Yeah, I think every so often there's one little tile by itself. And this is the 3D scene. Let me just maximize this. I ended up not having 2 separate player controller scripts. I just put it in one, and I guess I'll show that later at the end. Because I did that after the cave stuff, but yeah, these are the 3D caves. Walls generating. So I have 2 different scenes here. And the map generator. So I guess the first point of what went right was the map generation. I think I've done some of these enough times that it's like I can kind of follow along when we start doing like random generation or like boundaries and tile X, tile Y, stuff like that. So that was good. The rooms did kind of get a little confusing getting into that, but I could kind of get like passages connecting between multiple rooms and needing to prioritize certain things. A point for what went wrong, I guess. I ended up completing the whole thing, so there's not really an exact thing that went completely wrong in the end, but I had a lot of hiccups, like doing the mesh generation. It's kind of a new thing to get kind of into for me, so it was hard to kind of wrap my head around the triangles and points and like indexes of different vertices, and yeah, just the vertices and working with like multiple triangles and trying to make walls and meshes from those was a bit hard to follow. But in the end I did get everything functional. Something else that like I guess I learned along the way was making classes for these kind of functional things that were like just a square, a node, control node. Like it'd be really useful to take these kind of practices into the future and like make classes for things that I wouldn't make classes for before, like just things that I can reuse a bunch of different times and change the data and would be a lot cleaner. Something else that I got a bit more used to seeing in this was structs. So I still don't fully understand the struct versus class thing, but I do know that structs you can more easily like have a lot of them and have a lot of different data assigned to each one that you kind of create, and it's not going to change like the base of any of these. It's going to be its own thing. So it's good to kind of get into that. And in the end I did this player controller, so I guess this is kind of like a point of something cool to kind of implement, I guess, or something to learn. I kind of merged the 2D and 3D player controllers into one script. So I got a mesh generator reference, and then I'm making 2D components when the 2D bool is true, and then I'm making 3D when it's false. And I'm just adding some constraints onto these that I would normally do in the inspector, but they're in here instead. And then, yeah, like the 2D movement versus the 3D movement, and updating the position. Stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of a deviation from the tutorial, but I figured it was fine since it's not like related to the map, it's more of a character thing. But I found that this worked better because I could just take everything else off the player and just have, yeah, the player just has the mesh renderer and the cube filter just for the rendering the cube as the player, and then just the player controller script. Everything else gets added on in the end. But yeah.